Did you know that there are loan programs that allow you to not only do some repairs on the property, but also make improvements like garages and other things? Hey everybody, it's Tristan Emond with Mindful Living Realty, a realtor right here in Rapid City, South Dakota, the gateway to the Black Hills. Today I'm with Angelia Dale with Gateway Mortgage. If you don't know who she is, you haven't been watching my videos very much. But we're going to talk about what I call fix-it loans, but that's probably a misnomer because there's so many other things that can be done with it if I'm not correct.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about the different programs. Everybody's kind of got a different one. So first of all, let's talk generally about when we're talking about these type of programs. Kind of give us an overview of what it means, of what it takes to make this happen.
Okay, so we have renovation or rehab loans. So if you find a property that, say the kitchen or something like that needs to be remodeled, that is a program that we can go in and get bids and remodel that kitchen before we close. So there's there's 4 different types of rehab loans with the 4 different programs between FHA, conventional, and VA programs.
Okay.
So, and it's more of a, if you don't like the house or you want to add on a shop or something like that to the specific property, it kind of enhances it and gives it a little bit more of a personal touch to what you want it to be.
Okay, so let's start off with, we're looking at a $400,000 property. Kitchen just is older than the hills. It needs to be remodeled.
Correct.
All right, so let's say that's going to be a $50,000 repair or $50,000 job.
Yep.
Give us the timeline on how this all happens.
So we get bids for the work that needs to be redone.
Yep.
Because of the fact that when you purchase a home, so this is on a purchase, not a refi. When you do a purchase on a home, you want to make sure that the value is there for the rehab that you're doing with the home. So we're going to get the bids for the repairs that we're doing or the remodeling that we're doing, and then we're going to do an as-if appraisal. So it's based on the remodel of the kitchen and the purchase price at the house.
Of the house, right?
Correct.
Okay,
yep. And then so once we get those bids, we do that as-if appraisal, make sure the value is there, and then when we go to closing, the seller gets that $400,000. And then that $50,000 goes into a construction bucket, and we do draws while we're in the process of doing the remodeling of the kitchen. I think we can do up to 3 draws. A couple of them have a different criteria on that. And then once the house is completed, the kitchen is completed, then we send out the appraiser again and do a final inspection, and the loan is completed. We don't have to go back to a second closing or anything like that. So you're locked in at that good rate. You can do the remodel of the kitchen and then close after finalize it after.
All right, so let's ask this question, which I'm sure everybody's going to be asking. What if they want to do the kitchen themselves?
Yeah, self-help is
a no-go, right?
Ideally, yes. You can do cosmetic things, and you can paint. But when you get into the self-help, they want to make sure you have experience doing that because you're remodeling, say you are remodeling a kitchen, or you're building a shop. If you can prove that you have that experience, they will let you be your general contractor. But ideally, they want you to have a general contractor because first, what happens if something happens to you and you can't complete it? Yes, yep. And second is like quality. We want to make sure that what you're putting in there is good, has good craftsmanship. So yes, if you've been licensed or you've done different types of home repairs before and we can prove that, then yes, you could do some self-help. Ideally, not on health and safety or things that have to be licensed like a plumber or an electrician. So self-help is frowned upon if we can avoid it.
Gotcha. Which makes sense. They're gonna, that's the way it is. Okay, so let's say you mentioned the shop. So let's say we bought $500,000 property and there's room to add a shop and we can add that for $50,000, just to keep it easy.
Yep, a little.
So we've got $550,000. Same process?
Same process, yep. We still get the bids for the cost to build the shop. When you have a general contractor, we make sure that general contractor meets our construction guidelines, that they have a form that they fill out to make sure that there's no liens or judgments against them as a builder. They get the bids, we clear it, again, do an as-if appraisal, make sure the value is there with the shop and the home, and then same thing completed. So it's a pretty simple process. I had one that, again, he was a truck driver, didn't have a shop available, so put up almost a $250,000 shop.
So, that much?
Yeah, yep. You can go, it's based on, there's certain loan limits and then minimums, and then it also goes off the conventional loan limits itself.
Right, but you've got to be approved for the total amount.
Correct, yeah. You have to brief, so say the shop was, it's a $500,000 house and a $250,000 garage. Yes, you're going to have to qualify for $750,000. Yeah.
Okay, cool. But in this scenario, once you go through the initial closing process and the seller gets their money, you could move into the house and be in the house whilst the
Correct.
garage is being
Yep.
built.
Yep. That is the option.
Because it's basically your house.
Exactly. It's your house at the time because the seller gets their money and then you're just in that process. And you can go up to 180 days to 365 days to do that garage shop, to complete it out and then do that final inspection. Now we do have a couple loans that say you're redoing the kitchen and bathrooms and things like that and you cannot live in the home. Then we have a couple programs that allow you to finance like 6 months of payments into the program so that you can take care of the payment while you're doing the rehab.
Right. So no payment, but you're basically financing
Yeah.
$1,500 times 6.
Correct.
Or more.
Yep. Correct.
That's what $1,500 is pretty cheap. That's not a bad. That's a bad example.
Yeah.
Full 5,000 times 6, whatever. Right.
Yeah. So it is a good program if you really have that major remodel that you have to do and you cannot live in the home.
Okay.
So.
That makes sense. Perfect. Because that way you have ways to live somewhere else while the work is being done.
Yep. Then you can move in. Yep.
And then you can move in after the work's done and once the final hits, you get the final hit, then your payment begins.
Yep. Correct.
Life goes on.
Yeah. Yep. It's a pretty simple process.
Okay.
It's a great program. Like I said, I wish more people knew about it because, like I said, if you come against a home and you're like, oh, I love the house, but some of them actually you can add on another space. So, if you need 4 bedrooms and there's space to build a room.
So an addition could be included as well.
Yep, some of those programs allow it. Our VA doesn't allow us to add on additional space, nor does it allow to add on a shop in the garage, but we have the conventional loans or the FHA loans.
Okay, so let's talk about the different programs and their pluses and minuses. So VA, no additional spaces, but okay for the existing.
Correct, yep. As long as kitchen, bathroom remodel, stuff like that, can't put in a pool, carpet, painting, that kind of thing you can do with the VA option that way.
Okay. Any other limits on that VA side?
Nope. I think there's a minimum of $500,000 on the loan that way, and then I think they cap you at 120 days versus 180 or 365.
So you have to buy a $500,000 property to get that happen, to make that happen. You said minimum of $500,000.
No. Sorry. The minimum remodel is $5,000.
Okay.
So yeah. So minimum repairs are the $5,000.
Okay. Thank you. Yep.
Yeah. No, you don't have. No,
you said 500. I'm like, wait a minute. That seems. Okay.
No. You don't have to buy it. Yeah. It's not as long as you qualify with the FHA or the VA loan and their guidelines.
Okay.
So.
Now FHA. Then we move up to the FHA program. How is that different?
So there are 2 FHA programs. We ideally like the Streamline refi and the Streamline 203K because it's a little bit simpler. And that again, you can do bathrooms, kitchens, appliances. I believe you can add on a structure on that one. And then there's a full document one, which is a little bit more cumbersome. So ideally, we like to try to go with the Streamline. The 203 full disclosure the full doc one has to be approved by a HUD approved contractor.
People,
yeah. And so that one just gets a little bit more red tape on that side. But yeah, that one, again, you can, 3.5% down, and then whatever the cost of the remodels and things like that are rolled into the loan.
Can you do additions and?
Yep, you can do additions. Yep, still cannot do any pools. Nope, I don't think we could. Some of them you can actually do a pool on their side. So, which in South Dakota we don't.
Yeah, why? That's.
Yeah, but yeah. So
whatever.
and the 203K and that FHA is, depending on credit scores and debt to income ratios, is where you would look at more of that loan. And all of these, except for VA, you can do. We have investment property, so you can do a primary residence, a second home, and an investment property.
Oh man.
The loan to values are just a little bit different for each program.
Yeah, so it depends on what you want to do with them all, and how that and what your purpose is, but it can happen somehow.
Yep, and then 1 to 3 units on most everything. The VA, I believe, 1 to 4 units on that side, owner occupied. Yeah.
Right. And then conventional, I assume, is a little more whatever you want.
Yeah, yep. Like I said, conventional is a lot easier. It's same thing. Rooms, structures, add on a carport or a garage if you wanted to on that side, and it just has to get in with value for whatever repairs that you're doing.
Okay, let's talk about some required repairs, like a foundation, which that's a really expensive foundational repair issue. What programs, if any, help work with that, and how does that play out?
I believe so. We have FHA conventional. I don't believe the The VA allows the structural, but when we do the conventional, say it's a foundation repair, you get the bids for that. They do require a structural engineer after the work has been completed to make sure that the structure is sound for those type of programs. So yeah,
additional cost on top of that afterwards.
Yeah, I mean we roll those in because we know that we're going to have to have that. Yes,
but still, you're adding additional
like
whatever
$500 roughly, or $500+ for that engineer certificate on that side. But again, it's giving you that sound of mind that that's structurally sound since it's a foundation. So it depends on kind of what is required, like a retaining wall. That's probably going to still have a structural engineer cert because of the fact that it's something that could come down into the house. Right. Roof repairs. So if you have a home that needs a roof repairs, we can look at doing that with the rehab program.
Yeah. So it seems like if you have a question, ask the question, and maybe one of the programs could probably make it work.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
I assume that the biggest issue there is price point and total price point, and then financeability of the person themselves.
Correct. Yep. Yeah. Because like I said, everything is done as a traditional loan. We just get that extra part of what is the cost of the repairs, and then just adding that into that purchase price of the house.
Right.
So, but it's like I said, it's a great program. You come across some avocado kitchens. I think we had one where we had the bathtub, the heart bathtub, and the velvet wallpaper. So if you wanted to go
in fact, I think that was like 2019, and we had the same conversation in that house, I believe.
Oh, yep.
So it's very.
Yes.
But I knew the programs have changed a little bit, or COVID killed a lot of them, and so they kind of came back.
Yeah, and the VA one is not very old. It's fairly recent because the VA decided to come out with a renovation loan, which is good because again, you would get into an older home or something like that, or something that needs to have some rehab on that side, and it's good to have that option with the low interest rates with the VA.
Right. So also then with the VA, because we've got your conditional issues, so we could have safety, like we mentioned, the roof, or like some of the painting. If there's enough of it, if there's that $5,000, we could use that $5,000 to bring the condition to the point where VA is happy with it.
Correct. Yeah. Yep.
And even though theoretically in this case, we've got the $350,000 home. We add in the $5,000 to make it good.
Yeah.
But the seller's still getting their money. We're still going to close at the end of the time period,
and
then the painting and stuff will be done later.
Yeah,
and still VA is going to be okay with it.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So that's kind of where that's a nice program with that VA that has that option, because the seller still gets their money and then they can move in.
Right, and you can do the exterior repairs or whatever needed to make VA happy or FHA happy, because they've got those same scenarios where everything has to be. Everything's painted and safe and weather tight and all the things.
Yeah, peeling paint, broken windows, handrails and stuff like that, especially with those govy loans.
Right, right. Yeah, so you could find that perfect house that has a lot of things that you want in it, but isn't quite perfect, isn't quite nice, maybe needs some work, and you can use one of these loans to take care of those things and make it more of what you want to. So here's the kind of a point also might be here is if you're looking in a $500,000 price point, let's say you approve for $500, and you can't quite find what you want in $500, maybe we can find something in the $400s that is what you're looking for, but just beat up and needs some work. You can still use that up to $500,000 to purchase the property, but you can make it yours without spending money out of cash. Or cash out of pocket.
Cash out of pocket, yeah. Yeah, because like I said, we have had people who come in, it's like, oh, that garage doesn't fit my monster truck.
Yeah.
So we need to raise it up like 4 more inches. And so that's a possibility, because if you're like, I love this house, but where am I going to park?
Right.
So, yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah, a lot of properties like downtown Robbinsdale, they've got that alley access, and everybody else has got a garage in the backyard. Mm-hmm. So you could put a big old honking garage in the backyard, provided everybody's happy for it and with it. And
and get an approval, with the city, that kind of thing. Yeah, so it's a great program, like I said, like that. They can, I don't want to say it's unlimited possibilities. Like I said, we can't add in pools and things like that. I mean, you can, I think, outdoor patio stuff and things like that. You cannot do major appliances, cabinetries, and kitchens and things like that. You can't do. You cannot do washer and dryer. So they look at things that are permanently, in a sense, attached to the home, because it's going with the loan itself.
Yeah, because they're not. Yeah.
Yeah.
They want to make sure that whatever they're giving you money for is also something that they have control over.
Yeah, it's still part of the value of the home.
If you default, they want to get their money back out of it. That's how this works.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Anything else we haven't talked about that you want to maybe mention about this program? These
Well,
programs?
before our rates were kind of higher because it was considered a construction loan, and lately they've come down a little bit. I mean, not that rates are. I mean, rates are where they are,
Yeah.
but they've come down to be somewhat comparable to our regular conventional loans on that side. Some of the programs like the home style and the choice renovation go with some of our lower down payment programs. So like a conventional loan, you only have to put in 3% versus 5% and still be able to do the rehab programs.
Nice.
So it's still eligible for some of our first time home buyers or the income based programs.
So you don't need 20% down?
No, 20% down, only 3% on some conventionals, 3.5% on FHA. Rural development.
5 on probably some more normal conventional.
Correct. Yep. We can't do South Dakota housing with
Yeah.
this program, unfortunately, just because when we sell that loan to South Dakota housing,
There's so many more layers there.
Yeah,
That's a mess.
So they do have to come up with either their own funds available, gift fund, and then you can do seller concession still for closing costs if you need to.
Awesome.
Some help. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you very much
Yes.
for enlightening us on the rehab and renovation loans, not fix-it loans. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Have an amazing day. Remember, love where you live.